Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., on page 313, you have this term race camp. Can you share the constructive value of this word race camp?
Well, what does it say?
It says, use this term to apply to any place, residence, country, nation, etc., where non-white people are located during the existence of white supremacy racism. Reason, during the existence of white supremacy racism, non-white people do not have or reside in homes, nor do they have or reside in countries or nations. A location is not necessarily a home, a country, or a nation. A location is a location. A location can also be a dislocation. During the existence of white supremacy racism, the white supremacist racists dictate which non-white people will be allowed to locate where, when, and how. These locations and or dislocations for or against non-white people cannot be correctly called homes, countries, or nations. They can only at best be correctly called race camps, tribal locations, tribal reservations. What is the constructive value of using this term and believing this term?
You can just use it anytime you feel like you want to use it, or in a situation. Race camp just means you're a victim of racism wherever you are, and wherever you are is a race camp, and you use it just that way. This person says, well, if you choose to use it, just like everything else in the code, so you only use any of these words, particularly in the word guide. You only use them, or everything, even in the basic book, or in both books, or both volumes, rather, because they're all the same book. The word guide is just an extension of the basic book. But you use them on occasions only when you think you will get what, according to the code, the most constructive result. You don't use it to be controversial. Nothing in the textbooks for victims of racism. And that will apply to anything else, any questions you have about anything in the books at all. You only use them like you use any tool. Words are nothing but tools. And you use tools for the occasion where you think that the tool will do the job you want done. Just like in a tool chest, a word is a word book, a word guide is nothing but a tool chest. Any book that you read, period, it's just a tool chest. It's a way of communicating, either to you or to someone else, or to both you and someone else. What? Something that needs doing or needs to be thought about. Thought, speech, action. That's what people or creatures are involved in. Any creature, what you call creature, whether it's a person or what you call an animal, they do three things. They think, they speak in one form of language, in one form or another, and they act. So words are under that second category, speech. And you just have tools for speaking. Just like you have tools for doing things, you have tools for speaking. Tools for speaking are what? Words. A caterpillar has its own language. Why? They communicate with other caterpillars. People don't know what they're saying. You hear birds in the trees. They're communicating. You hear them tweet, 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 and this, we just hear it's what we call singing, some of us, and we call it noise, depending on what effect it has on you. But the bird is not thinking about you being involved in that. The bird is sending signals, language, words to other birds who understand what is being said. Come over here immediately. there's something in the nest. Needs to be investigated. Now, I don't know what all that means, but the bird knows when they hear it. So it's the same way with anything that you see in the code book. I think people kind of misunderstand that. It's not even so much what I mean to say. You can use the word any way you want to mean what you want it to say, because a word is nothing but a tool. That's why I call it a word guide. So it's, and I'm saying all of this to make a even overriding, more important point. You don't have to check with Neely Fuller, really, about things like that, the technical use of the book. You pick up the book, but it's okay to ask that question. It's okay to ask any question that you have. A question needs to be answered, and there's an answer to every question. But you just say, well, Neely Fuller says that you can make a pledge this way. But I think that what I'll do, I'm not going to make that pledge. I'm going to make one of my own. But I got an idea from Neely Fuller, okay? But I'm going to make a pledge that's completely different that I think will work best for me. That's how I'm going to pledge the flag. I ain't going to do it in the words that he used. I got my own idea about what's the best pledge. So you do that. You don't have to get permission from me to use your own idea, but make it clear that your idea is not the same as mine if your idea is the same as mine. Make it clear that it is or isn't.
Okay.
You don't have to mention that at all, but of course if it's completely different, then you don't have to explain anything, or shouldn't rather, but you don't have to do anything except what you want to do.
Exactly.
But if you want to use exactly as what Neely says, you should, in order to avoid confusion, say that you got it from Neely Fuller's book.
Mm-hmm.
You should do that.
Yes.
Now, that's not just to pump up Neely Fuller. It's not for that purpose at all. It's to not cause confusion about what Neely Fuller is saying and what somebody else might be saying. And it's also saying if there's any problem with it, check with Neely Fuller, because he's to blame, all right? Because people, when you're in trouble, you always look for somebody to blame other than you. Okay, I'm that way, everybody's that way. That's your first instinct, survival, okay? So if I'm quoting somebody else, word for word, Mark Twain, which I quote every now and then, Eleanor Roosevelt, lots of people I quote. Dick Gregory. I'll say this came from Dick Gregory. That's what everybody should do. That's a part of the code. Wherever it came from, just say that's where it came from. Whether you agree with it or not. And then you say what you have to say. Now, this is what Dick Gregory said, but that's what he said about this particular situation. But I got my own ideas about this situation. Now, I'm going to tell you what they are. And they're completely different from what Dick Gregory says. And if somebody asks you, according to the code, well, are you agreeing with Dick Gregory or disagreeing? Now, it's a way to answer that according to the code so that you don't have conflict with anybody who disagrees with what you're saying. You say, no, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just telling you what my opinion is. I just told you what Dick Gregory said because you might want to know what Dick Gregory said. But now I'm speaking for me. And I'm not saying what he's saying, but I'm not saying anything for it or against it. It stands on its own. You better believe whatever Dick Gregory says. Dick Gregory says, in my opinion, Neely Fuller's opinion, stands on its own. It don't need to add it nothing.